I
Yeah,
actually had the opportunity to do something kind of cool where I was able to, thanks to Arizona Business Aviation Association, AZBAA, I was able to get my first type rating um, a couple months ago.
which is really, really awesome. And I couldn't wait for you to get through the training because I wanted to bend your ear and ask you all sorts of questions. And because, of course, that's not an experience that I've had, and it's an experience I'm excited to go through. And it's something that before talking to you, I really had no idea what to expect.
Yeah, and you know what?
Um,
Neither did I. It's a really cool program that AZBA has just started. I was kind of their guinea pig, and it was the first time they did it. So essentially, what AZBA is they're a trade organization in Arizona that promotes business aviation. That would be anything outside of the 121 or the airline world. And every year they give out general scholarships where they offer cash essentially for your flight training. You apply, you have an interview process, and the most dedicated and qualified applicant will receive some money in which he or she can use that towards any sort of aviation education, whether it be tuition, check ride, whatever it is. And they tried something new where in partnership with Flight Safety International in Tucson, Arizona, they were offering a free type rating as a scholarship. You get to go down to Tucson, you stay there for 2 weeks, and you are treated like you are a employee of a company, and you go down and you do the full process, and at the end of it, if everything goes according to plan, you come out with your SIC privileges in the Learjet category airplane. And it's kind of an interesting type rating classification. I'm not quite, again, we're pretty new to that whole experience, but essentially what I learned was the type rating you get is the LRJET, Learjet, which qualifies you to be able to fly the Learjet 20, 30, and 50 series of aircraft. And so what they used for this particular training was the Learjet 35 Alpha, so that's what I trained, but at the end you get SIC privileges for the entire Learjet class. And it was I can't tell you how validated I felt when I started doing that, because after about a year of instructing and spending a lot of time putzing around, going really slow, I just got bored. I got to be honest. I've been doing it for like a year, and I just wanted a change of scenery. I wanted something new. I wanted to go fast. I wanted to have another person in the cockpit and work as a team, because, you know, you can try. I don't know if you probably have in the past, but you can try to work with your student as a crew and, hey, you know, you're a commercial student. We just got to get this cross country done. How about all plug stuff in the
yeah.
G1000 for you, and, you know, you talk on the radio, whatever. But there's just not too much to do. But now I'm in a really old airplane that has a lot going on. So you need two people. You know, there's really a pilot flying and they've got their hands full, and then there's a pilot monitoring and he or she has their hands full too. So it was something that I was really itching to do. I wanted to fly a jet. You know, that was our dream, to fly a jet. And of course, I only got to touch the sim, but nonetheless, I really want to plug this experience to anybody who is able to apply, because if you've never gotten a type rating before, it is a great way to measure the practices, procedures, and policies that you've been preached and that you've been implementing in your initial flight training. So yeah, it was really eye opening. I've definitely learned a ton, and I just can't recommend it more. If you are able to apply, you have to apply. It was a once in a lifetime experience.
I didn't realize that you got the whole series. I thought it was, for some reason, just at 35. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I guess the way that they
Um,
do it is, again, I don't know where this came from, but there is a Learjet 20 series, a Learjet 30 series, which includes like the 35 Alpha, and then the straight 35, and then there's a straight 36, and then there's a 31. There's a lot of different airplanes. There's a funny ongoing saying that they had at Flight Safety about the Learjet series, and that is, if you have flown a Learjet, then you have flown a Learjet, because they were all very different. Bill Lear was very generous about how he would outfit these cabins and how he would basically every airplane came off the line looking a little bit different, because he was very willing to customize each customer's demands.
wow. It's funny. So, obviously the Lear 35 isn't, it's not a Gulfstream, but when I was a kid, I got a job as a lineman at White Plains Westchester Airport, New York, So, the guy, you go out, flag them in and fuel them and clean out the lab and all that kind of stuff. And everyone else that I worked with, nobody was really interested in aviation. It was a job to them. So they always wanted to do the easy jobs, which was not cleaning out the lab in the Lear 35, which you have to do. It's like an old camping toilet, right? So I would volunteer to do it. And reason for that is I'd run in there, clean it as fast as humanly possible so that I could go sit up in the cockpit for about 10, 15 minutes and just, play, I guess, and pretend I wouldn't touch anything. And then, 10 minutes would go by and, okay, my boss probably thinks I'm down to this toilet by now, and I'd come out. So, yeah, the Lear 35, that's a super cool airplane. I want to know, what was ground school like? That's, the flying stuff and the sim, obviously, I'm sure that was the fun part to you. But I've always been a little intimidated of, wow, what an intense ground school it must be to go get a type rating.
That's actually a really good point. Great question. I want to start by answering that. I want to start off this answer by addressing all of our students and everyone that we might have gone to school with at Embry-Riddle, or people that want to go to school at Embry-Riddle. I can't tell you how many times, myself included, and all of my peers said, ugh, I hate systems. Like, I'm just not mechanical. Like, systems is my least favorite subject. I hate when my instructor asks me detailed systems questions. And that was pretty acceptable. I kind of got by knowing maybe a little more than the bare minimum, maybe being above average in my systems knowledge, but I was that kid. I'm from Los Angeles. I, never worked on things, so this is a weak area of mine. Well, here's what ground school is. Ground school is 8 a.m. to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. With this airplane, it was only 5 days, because I guess the bigger the airplane, the more systems, the more time it takes to go over. But this particular airplane was only Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 o'clock in the afternoon of just systems. Literally only systems. And that's not just this airplane. That's every airplane, every training center ever. You are not there to learn about weather. You are not there to learn about high-speed aerodynamics. They might mention some nuances about the design of the airplane, but you are there to learn about the systems and their operation. You are there to learn about what each button does and what each button means if it is clicked on or off, and this light does or does not come on when it is supposed to. So when we think about systems, and what this experience really taught me was, you need to know what every button does, what every switch does, and what every light means. And if you know those, then you'll understand the system pretty well.
Wow.
But, it's long. It's tough to sit there for anybody from, like I said, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. You get breaks once in a while. It wasn't like they weren't brutal about it. You probably got a break every hour or so, and then you had an hour lunch. But for people like you and me that aren't good at sitting still, it's a challenge to sit there for all that time and take notes. And it's not like they spread it out because they want to go slower. They need that 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. slot because you have to go over an entire airplane in 5 days. So you got to go over power plant, pressurization, pneumatic. And by the way, one thing I didn't know before, pressurization and pneumatic are two different things.
Say more. Go on.
Basically what it came down to was, one of them is how air enters the cockpit or enters the cabin, and the other is how air exits the cabin.
Okay.
So there's a system. I believe pneumatic was like the process of bleed air coming from the compressor into the cabin, and then the pressurization system modulates by regulating how much air leaves the cabin. So that's like the safety valve and the dump valve, or the outflow valve, etc. So it's just, but it was, again, I got to learn things like that I wouldn't have known. I got to practice things that apply to all jets, V1 cuts, an extreme overspeed situation, unusual attitudes in a jet. So all these things that I'm able to do, I'm able to at least experience them and get some practice with them before I get to the real deal. Whether I go 135 or I go 121, wherever I end up getting employed, I will have done these maneuvers and seen some of these things and have practiced them before it really counts.